Good morning. It is a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I'm Glenn Clark. He's Griffin Bass. We're with you until they kick us off the air in favor of the jerks that do the Simply the Bets program. That's all on the way this morning. Coming up in just a couple of minutes, we're going to preview the Buccaneers. Normally not something we do on Tuesday. We don't typically look ahead to the opponent on Tuesday. But, you know, normally the Ravens aren't playing on Thursday. So we start to try to kick into game week gear as Ian Beckles, former Buccaneer. He's got a podcast now called In the Trenches. He was a longtime radio host in Tampa. I know just moved on from that role, but he's got a podcast called In the Trenches that covers the Buccaneers, so we will chat with him about them as they appear to be a mess. It looks like the Ravens are getting them at the right time, or at least that's what we think. I also know how the NFL works, and that's still Tom Brady, and I'm not stupid. I don't feel good about this on Thursday night, but we'll talk about that with Ian Beckles. It's Tuesday. We will preview Waiver Wire Wednesday. I can't imagine that Gus Edwards is still available in your league locally. I just don't think that's likely, although he was available in one of my leagues.
I added him last week.
Yeah.
I was thinking
like
ahead.
I
was very proud of myself.
On Saturday, I want to say I looked up and I was like, wait, Gus Edwards is still available? Okay, I'll go ahead and do that. But we'll talk about some of the other options. Are we adding Mecole Hardman? Like, he had a ton of points, but it was only on a few touches. Are we adding Daniel Jones if we're in quarterback hell?
I think you have to.
I don't know. I don't think he's going to run for 100 yards every game. I don't think that's the case. So I got a lot of reasonable questions. I was hoping that Bailey Zappi was going to be my answer, and you know, for a couple of drives there last night, I was like, yeah, you see, this is why it was so stupid that he tried to play Mac Jones again, and then that kind of went to hell in the second half. So I don't know what the Patriots are going to do moving forward. I have no idea who's going to be their quarterback, and that means Bailey Zappi probably isn't my answer.
We'll see what happens when Axel Hoyer gets back.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to have anything to do with it.
Okay.
I don't think that will play a role whatsoever with the Patriots and their decision. Anyway, so we'll talk about that with Joe Serpico, PressBox fantasy football expert. Today's show brought to you by the all-new Ginsu Kamado Grill. Reserve yours right now, ginsugrills.com. Use the code TAILGATE, and you'll save $100 when you do. Not going to be another Ravens home game for a while, but when they do get back home in a month, you should stop by the Game Day Firehouse, 1202 Ridgely Street, just west of the stadium, and sample some cooking from the Ginsu Kamado Grill. Register to win your own and $500 worth of grilling meats. You guys are just going to keep doing this, and I don't know what to tell you. This is a really tricky thing. I don't know what to say to you because it just feels like every day you're just going to keep, and I said yesterday to Jeremy, the best way I can explain it is it's boring. It's boring, your obsession over the idea of firing the offensive coordinator. It's not just, absurd. It's boring. It's all you've ever done. It's all you ever know. Whatever guy you want to fire right now, when there's a new one, you're going to want to fire that guy too. You just do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. It's boring. I don't know, it's sad in a way. It's pathetic. I don't know what you want to call it. You're obsessed with it. You're obsessed with the idea that if someone else just calls the plays, everything will be fixed. All the problems will be fixed. The Ravens will be the greatest team in the history of football if you just have someone else call the plays. Well, who? I don't know, T. Martin, as I pointed out, whose offensive coordinator experience was being so disastrous at USC that he had his play calling right stripped from him. It doesn't mean I don't think T. Martin couldn't be a good – maybe he could. Who knows? Maybe there's some world in which T. Martin could be given a different opportunity and it could work. But the idea that you think that's the answer is bizarro land. It's bizarro land that you're obsessed with firing the offensive coordinator of the number 6 scoring offense in the NFL. Do you understand how stupid that sounds? You can't define it. You do anything in your power to come up with a way. Well, but Lamar is stagnant, and the offense is stagnant, and if you take away 2 games out of the 7, then they haven't scored as many points. Yeah, you're probably right. When there's only 7 games, it's a small sample size. The 2 where they scored the most, I don't know. What if you took away the 2 where they scored the least? Then what would they be averaging? We can all do this. We can make the math as fuzzy as we want to make it. We can play with funny money, baby. We can all do these things. The number 4, by the way, they did go down from 3 to 4. Number 4 DVOA offense and the number 6 scoring offense in football. And your answer is the offensive coordinator needs to be fired in the middle of the season. In the middle of the season. And again, I said this during the postgame show on Sunday. I think what happened in 2012 really ended up hurting us more because we believe it can just work that way. You can just fire a coordinator whenever you want, and the next guy will go win you a Super Bowl. When the overwhelming evidence in the history of football is the opposite of that. But the one time we think about it is that. Of course, nobody ever refers to what happened when the Ravens fired Jim Fossil in the middle of a season. That's always the one we go to. We always go to, but what about 2012? I saw our friend Aditi Kinkabwala, for example, brought that up this morning from CBS, and she referenced it, but not in terms of the Ravens, in terms of the Steelers and Matt Canada, who I know they don't care much for out there, the former Maryland interim football coach who's been their offensive coordinator. And I have no idea what that would look like if they had a different offensive coordinator, nor do I care. I couldn't tell you what the Steelers are doing. I don't think they have a very good offense, but something tells me it probably has something to do with not having a quarterback. I'm just going to guess. I'm not saying that Matt Canada is a quality offensive coordinator. I have no idea if Matt Canada is a good offensive coordinator or
not.
Yeah,
my one friend who's a big Steelers fan, he tells me that they do the same formula every
and
3 plays.
That's what I hear from the Steelers constantly, but I don't watch enough, and I don't. Again, nor do I care. Right? Not our concern. We have our own concerns here. My concern is not the Steelers. If Matt Canada is making them worse, I hope they hold on to him for forever. May they never have another offensive coordinator. But it's worth pointing out the Pittsburgh Steelers have the 31st scoring offense in the NFL. So it would make sense for them to think that the problem is the offense. That makes sense. That's logical. You have to have a conversation. You have to do some soul searching, figure out what the problem is. The Ravens have the number 6 scoring offense in the NFL. Again, I get it. You don't like me bringing that up because it doesn't fit with your narrative that the entirety of the Ravens' problems is the offensive coordinator. And you do everything in your power. My guy Steven, who I like. I even like some of these people that I fight with all the time. My guy Steven this morning was literally trying to tell me, well, if you just take away the Miami game. No! When you played 7 games, everything is a significant portion of the sample size. Look, if you get to the end of the year and the Miami game stands as the outlier, then the averages are going to go down because over 17 games, 1 game can't continue to bring it up. You'll get your answer. You're trying to speed ahead. Everyone is trying to speed ahead. It's the guy that called in about Sean Payton on the postgame show on Sunday. You're trying to speed ahead. We're acting like there's some sort of crisis in Baltimore that doesn't exist. The question that was posed to me was, do I have confidence in the Ravens offense? Well, as a unit, yes, I do, because they're the number 4 DVOA and number 6 scoring offense in the NFL. Do I have confidence that the Ravens offense can win a Super Bowl? No, but that's because I don't think they have quite enough pass catchers. And I think I said that in July.
Probably said it in
June.
April. Yeah.
Well, everything after the NFL draft, after the Marquise Brown thing. Everything after they traded away a wide receiver and said, and we're not going to bother getting another one. We'll just go with what we got. At that moment, I said, well, wait a second. This is a weird bit. You just don't think you need those guys. Oh, all right. Okay, that's your call. I can't force you to do anything you don't want to do. Leading into the draft, ironically, I was not talking about wide receivers at all. And we, in fact, joked when we did our weekly draft segments about how it was the first time in the history of the Ravens that we weren't leading every conversation with wide receiver. And then, sure enough, within moments, we found out that probably should have been the conversation that we were having. But that's the reason why I don't have confidence. I've given you guys the best I'm going to give you. I don't understand why Greg Roman was brought back if they weren't going to run a Greg Roman offense. Now, on Sunday, it appeared as though they were trying to get back to something like a Greg Roman offense. And I don't know if you guys like that because you guys don't like the Greg Roman offense. But in reality, that's the thing that makes the most sense. Why gut yourself at wide receiver and bring back Greg Roman if you weren't going to run a Greg Roman offense? So, for the reality purposes, if that was what was happening on Sunday, was a course correction, was getting back to doing what Greg Roman does, that's quite logical. The idea of firing an offensive coordinator when you're 4-3, I'm giving them a loss on Thursday night, which is unfair. When you're 4-3, you're in first place, you have the number 6 scoring offense in the NFL, is utter insanity. Like, you need to get a hold of yourself. Your opinions of something don't get to outweigh fact. You fire a coordinator when something's bottoming out. You fire a coordinator when things are falling apart. You don't have to like it. I don't know what to tell you, but you can't change fact. Number 4 DVOA, number 6 scoring offense in the NFL. Those are facts. Those aren't Glenn's opinion. I mean, my opinion, I've said it a few times. I don't know that I think Greg Roman's a great offense coordinator. I think he does one thing really well, and it hasn't made sense what the Ravens have been doing this year because it's not the thing he does really well. But the facts are the facts. Both the offense they're putting up and the expected offense, which should be happening independent of opponents, say this is a really good offense. Now, I get it. We all want to win every game 50-0. It's the guarantee fairy that we want underneath our pillow. We don't want our daughter to be missing. It's got to be your bull, the whole thing. I get it. I mean, trust me, I'd love that. I'd love if in week 7 someone could give me a guarantee the Ravens are going to win the Super Bowl this year. It would make it a lot easier for me to decide that I should fly to Arizona and make plans around it, the whole thing. It would be wonderful if that were the case. It's, of course, not the case. That's not how things work. You have to play the season in order to get there, and we all know that. We just get restless. It's the nature of football. It's the nature of how much we care about football. It's the nature of, the power the Ravens have over the city and the NFL has over this country. We are obsessed with getting the answers before we do the homework because we just care so much about it. There is nothing at the moment that's actually transpiring that suggests that the Ravens should, for any reason, fire their offensive coordinator. It's crazy when you look at the actual facts. Your opinion that you can't win a Super Bowl doing what the Ravens do with Greg Roman, that's a separate thing. And again, will be relevant at the end of the season. If they get to the end of the season, they don't win a Super Bowl, then the Ravens are going to have to look at that. And by the way, much like I don't think the facts suggested that you needed to move on from Wink Martindale, sometimes you do, even when an offense is clicking. Remember, it was working when Marty Mornhinweg was the offensive coordinator, but yet they moved on from him because they thought that doing something else was better. And at the end of the season, if they don't win the Super Bowl again, I think there will be an argument for moving on from Greg Roman. But you doing that in season is crazy. Doing that in season when things are going well is crazy. It's ludicrous. It's insanity. It's chaotic. If you were going to do that, you should have done that at the end of last season, when you have an entire offseason for a play caller to figure out what they've got and to work with it and try to figure out what's best for the team moving forward. To suddenly throw in an element of chaos into a football team that is 4-3, is in first place, is one of the most asinine things I've ever heard in my life. Like, I don't think you guys understand how insane this suggestion is. What's not insane would be to say, hey, look, man, I don't think they're ever going to get there with Greg Roman, and I think at the end of the season, they've got to figure out what they want to do moving forward. I agree. Truly, I agree with that thought process. I don't know. I can't tell you whether or not they're going to win a Super Bowl with Greg Roman as their offensive coordinator. I mean, as has been pointed out plenty of times, Greg Roman was a play away from winning a Super Bowl as an offensive coordinator 10 years ago. We keep pretending like this can't work. I mean, Jimmy Smith gets called for pass interference in the end zone. I don't know. Maybe he's got a Super Bowl title. I'm bored. I'm bored by it. And I get it. You're saying, Glenn, you're bored, but you just spent the entire... Because it's all anybody's talking about. It's all I get constantly is bombarded with this nonsense. But to be clear, you guys, what you fall back on is look at what happened 10 years ago, and a year later you wanted that guy fired. A year later, you were desperate to get Jim Caldwell out of Baltimore. The guy that is your justification for why it's okay to fire a coordinator in season. It took you 1 year to want that guy fired. It's all we do. It's all we've ever done. And I get it. In the history of the Ravens, there have been some really bad offenses. I understand that. There's been justification a lot of times for wanting it. This, of course, has been the best offensive stretch in the history of the franchise, and we're still doing the same thing. Because it's what we know. All we've ever known is firing the offensive coordinator. It's in our DNA. It's in our blood. It's all we're capable of doing. We're not allowed to criticize the quarterback for missing the checkdowns, and we'll come up with 8 attempts to wag the dog. We'll continue to move the goalposts at all moments to try to not criticize the quarterback over missing checkdowns. We're talking about checkdowns. That's not even the biggest problem. You're just trying to move the goalposts. That's it. It's gaslighting. Because you just want the answer to be one thing. Fire Greg Roman and, step 1, fire coordinator. Step 2, question mark. Step 3, question mark. Step 4, question mark. Step 5, win Super Bowl. I mean, that's what we, honest to God, believe. Not me, but many of us.
Sounds like a good plan, though.
Yeah, I mean, if it ends with winning the Super Bowl, yeah, who cares what the steps are in between? I am on board. I mean, like, if that football wizard, if it's Would You Rather Wednesday, and the football wizard comes by and says, I can't tell you who it's going to be, but you fire Greg Roman, you win the Super Bowl, I'm on board. Yes, go do that. Yes. But it's insane the way we talk about this. It's insane the way we've convinced ourselves that this is how things work, or this is how things go, or that you're a play caller. I guess your belief is that the Ravens should be the number 1 points per game team in the NFL, and if you just had a different play caller, they would definitely be that, despite the fact they don't have wide receivers. Like, is that the thing? Because then everybody told me that the reason why Lamar can't take checkdowns is because the offensive line was getting pushed back. So your belief is if somebody else calls the plays and the offensive line stops getting pushed back? Is that what it is? Is that what it is? gonna move on. We're gonna do other things. I promise. Just it's unbelievable that we just every week, no matter what happens, win, lose, tie, bye, whatever it is, same chat. Fire the offensive coordinator. We're just gonna we're boring. We're uninteresting as a fan base. Today's show also brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. The best place to watch and bet on every game is the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. Same game parlay plus betting now available. You can put up to 25 legs on your same game parlay bet. And you can register a $25 Super Bowl futures bet to win a pair of tickets to the Super Bowl in Arizona. FanDuel.com/SBNAZ in order to find out more. Time for us to preview Thursday night. We don't normally start previewing opponents on Tuesday. That's definitely rare, but, the Ravens are playing on Thursday night. The game's just 2 days away. Joining us now, he is a former Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive lineman. He is the host of the In the Trenches podcast. He is Ian Beckles, and he's with us on GCR. Ian, it's Glenn and Griffin in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you, man. Thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes for us.
My pleasure, guys. How you guys doing?
Oop, I apologize. We will try to get that fixed. We gotta get a new cord. That's gonna end up being on my Christmas list. We got a wonky cord that we're dealing with, and hopefully we will get that fixed. Let me try one more time. Ian, can you hear me? Okay.
I hear you.
Awesome.
You hear me?
I hear you. Great. Hey, thank you for taking the time for us, man. We really appreciate it. Ian, I'm gonna ask it as simple. What in the world is going on with the Buccaneers right now?
Well, I mean, listen, I think as a Buccaneer fan, we've been spoiled the last couple of years. And if you remember before Tom Brady got here, it wasn't all that pretty. And if you're looking to see the way the Buccaneers have kind of developed this team the last couple of years, we've lost some really good football players, and we've had some key injuries. So people are asking what's wrong with the Buccaneers. My answer is they're just not that talented this year, unfortunately.
They, obviously still a team that has Tom Brady, though, and still has Mike Evans. And I guess let me start with Tom Brady. Is this finally the year where it's catching up with him? Or, would you say no, and watching him, he still looks fine. It's just that everything around him isn't working.
Well, listen, I watched Trent Dilfer, a buddy of mine, win a Super Bowl, and I watched Peyton Manning win a Super Bowl when he wasn't at his best. Is Tom Brady at his best at 45? Nobody is. Is Tom Brady good enough to quarterback a team to the Super Bowl right now? Yes, absolutely. But once again, they don't have enough around him. When you go back to the Super Bowl when Tom Brady won and beat Mahomes here at Raymond James Stadium, Patrick Mahomes was the best football player on that field. But you can't do it yourself. So the offensive line is breaking down. The receivers aren't making the big plays, and really there's not a lot of creativity in the play calling. So Tom can't do it himself, but he is showing his age a little bit, though.
No, I understand what you're saying, and clearly against the Panthers on Sunday, Mike Evans, of all things, right, one of the most reliable players in the NFL, let him down a bunch of times. One of the things I've always said, Ian, and I don't know who said it first. I'm not trying to claim it was my thing, but the hardest thing to do in sports is to stop losing. Has that become an issue with this franchise? Have they just things not going the way that they were supposed to go this season? Has it permeated at all? Has it spread? Has it become difficult to shake that with this group?
Well, I think if you go back to all the way in February to when Tom retired and he came back, and then you look from that point to now, there's just been a lot of things happen with the Buccaneers, and unfortunately, very few of them are positive. And then you talk about is this stuff off the field affecting Tom Brady? Well, I don't know. I don't know how it can. I went through a divorce myself a year ago, and it's on my mind. It has to be on your mind all the time. And then, you're going back to Tom's about things being normal. And I don't think anything's normal in his world right now. So
Yeah.
he's in a funny place. And the Buccaneers are in a funny place because their leader, who's been one of the best leaders to ever play the game, is now maybe not 100% totally in. And I think it's rubbing off on the rest of the locker room as well.
He is Ian Beckles, the In the Trenches podcast. He's with us here on GCR. Ian, to that point, obviously the other thing that happened this offseason was a coaching change, right? Has that I don't like the idea of blaming, Todd Bowles for any of these things because, I think he's a quality coach, but how much of this falls on him?
Well, it ultimately always falls on the coach first, then the quarterback. So it's going to fall on Todd Bowles ultimately. But I'll be honest with you, if Bruce Arians was a coach right now, I don't know if the Buccaneers, record would be any different. It's about it's a play on the football field. The Bucs don't run the football well. The Bucs don't protect the passer well. They don't rush the passer well, and now they can't stop the run. And that's not an equation for anybody in this league to be successful. So you could blame Todd Bowles, but Todd Bowles doesn't tackle and he doesn't block either.
All these things are fair. It's a very fair point. Their inability to get things going in the run game, is it just that they're not committing to it, Ian? Like, is it as simple as saying, hey, if they come out Thursday night and they're committed to attacking on the ground, that should start to help solve some of their problems?
Well, this is something that's driven me crazy for the last little while. The Buccaneers never really commit to the run game. And, to be a good running team, it's about committing. And, I was an old school run first type of guy. And, the Buccaneers don't have that mentality. And it's always been pass first. We got a 45-year-old quarterback throwing the ball 45 times a game. And I don't think it's a good equation. And even if you're winning, throwing the ball 45 times a game is just not the way you continuously win. So you want to throw the ball 30, run the ball 35. To me, that's the best equation for success. But the Buccaneers haven't established that at all this year.
I mean, it's certainly, look, we've talked about it a lot up this way, that I can't imagine, even with Tom, I know it's Tom Brady, I just can't imagine having a 45-year-old quarterback and saying, what we should do is throw more. Like, that would be the best way to go about doing things. How much have they missed our old friend Ryan Jensen? How much has that been a factor? I know you brought up the offensive line struggles, but he seems like such a stalwart for that group and a guy that was beloved up this way. How much has that been a factor?
Well, I loved Ryan Jensen when everybody else disliked him. And when the Bucs were losing, and everybody's like, he's playing too dirty. I was like, man, you just leave Ryan Jensen alone. Eventually, everybody else is going to start playing that way, and it started happening. And I thought Ryan Jensen was a great leader. But listen, Ryan Jensen is missed. Ali Marpet is missed. Ryan Kappa is missed. They lost Dominican Sue and JPP on the other side. That's a lot of people in the trenches to think you can just kind of snap your finger and be as good as you were. So, and then that's the root of the evil with the Buccaneers, is they're just not as good inside anymore.
All this being said, like, I'm still struggling with this, Ian, because the Ravens are 1.5 favorites on the road on a Thursday night, and nothing about that works for me in the NFL. Like, I don't like the sounds of that even a little bit. But I go a step forward with that, and I still say, but that's still Tom Brady. Like, I still refuse to believe that it's just, there's been too many times in my life where I've thought to myself, all right, time's catching up to this guy. And I was, an idiot and wrong, and he won 3 more Super Bowls from that point. Like, is there still a part of you that says that this can flip on a dime, that in one game all of this can change and they can go back to being the Buccaneers and the threat to win the NFC that everybody thought they should have been coming into the season?
Well, I think once again you got to go back to your original statement that this is still Tom Brady. I'm not quite sure it is Tom Brady anymore.
Okay.
And he just doesn't have the supporting cast around him that he normally has. And against Tom Brady, like I say, he's plenty. He's plenty to win a Super Bowl, but it has to be almost perfect around him. And what you said, it's not a great equation to throw the ball 45 times with an old quarterback, but that's what we're doing. So to me, if you're going to do that, we have the wrong guy. And you can say it's still Tom Brady, but how many times have you seen Tom Brady score 6 points? How many times do you see Tom Brady go 3 and out? As many times as he has the last couple of games. How many times do you see Tom Brady lose to a terrible Pittsburgh team and then lose to a terrible Carolina team? So it's not about Tom Brady anymore. It's about a Buccaneer team that just isn't as talented as they were in the last couple of years.
I mean, it sounds like you're pretty convinced that there's no turning this around at this point.
I said this before the Buccaneers started losing the last couple of games. It doesn't look right. It doesn't look right. It doesn't sound right. All this turmoil off the field never equates to anything. And listen, Pittsburgh is not good. I'm just telling you, they're not a good football team, and neither is Carolina. And I watched both of them dismantle the Buccaneers in consecutive weeks. So if you think that I'm going to pick the Buccaneers over anybody right now in a short week, that ain't happening. Not with my money.
All right. Well, any chance we can trade for Mike Evans then? Any chance that we can that this thing goes really south and that in a week the Buccaneers are like, well, maybe we start to make plans for the future.
We'll give you Mike Evans, but I'm going to take Calais Campbell and a couple of other linemen as well. So I'm not sure you're ready for that.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to make that. I don't think we're going to be able to make that deal. I don't think it's going to end up working out that way, Ian. If there is a roadmap, right? And again, calling it an upset. The Ravens are 1.5 favorites on Thursday night, and it's a Thursday night road game. But if there is a roadmap to the Buccaneers righting the ship against the Ravens on Thursday, what would that look like to you?
Oh, boy. They better figure out a way to run the football. I mean, they just really haven't. You know, they've been out rushing almost every single game this year. If they don't find a way to run the football against a Ravens team who is going to run the football regardless, and if they don't figure out a way to stop the run, they'll get run out of the stadium. So, to me, it's always listen, my podcast is In the Trenches.
Yeah.
Games are won in the trenches. If you can't stop the Ravens running, you can't stop them, period. And we have to figure out a way to run the ball as well.
I mean, it's all very fair. Are we at this point, like, do you have an idea for what the Buccaneers start thinking about, like who the next quarterback is? Like, are you definitely certain this is Tom Brady's final year? Or do you think there's some world in which he says, well, hell, I'm already divorced. What the hell? I'll just keep playing football after this.
Well, if you were listening to any of the, stuff happening off the field in the off season, I wouldn't bet anything that Tom Brady's here next year. I mean, he was almost part owner of the Miami Dolphins.
That's fair. That's fair.
He retired and came back, and he wanted everything his way, and now it's his way, and it's not going so well. So do I think that he's coming back here? Nope. I think he'll probably play another year, but I would be shocked if he comes back here to Tampa Bay.
All right. Very good. Ian, it's In the Trenches, of course, is the podcast where everybody can find you. And at Ian Beckles on Twitter as well, correct?
Ian_Beckles, and I'm mostly an Instagram guy.
All right, Instagram. Give him a follow there. Ian, really appreciate taking the time for us this morning, man. Looking forward to Thursday night. I almost, in a weird way, like I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm almost starting to feel bad for Tom Brady, which is that's a weird sentence for me to say at this point about a man who's lived the life he has. But I appreciate you taking the time for us, man. Enjoy it, all right?
Anytime, guys. My pleasure.
Ian Beckles checking in with us here on GCR. Somebody said that to me over the weekend. I can't remember who it was. They were like, I'm almost starting to feel bad for the guy. And I was like, no. But I don't know. I get it. I do get it. I get, like, it's you upended your life for what? Because you were mad that Adam Schefter beat you to your retirement announcement? You decided to rip apart your entire life over that? It's got to be a dark feeling, man. It's got to be a pretty empty feeling that was what was worth ripping your life. Now, some guys, this is just who they are. Like, maybe it really isn't that. Maybe even if Adam Schefter and who is it? Schefter and somebody else both reported it. Maybe if they had never reported it, he still would have gone through the same process. He would have announced his retirement, and then he would have woken up one day and been like, what am I doing? I play football. It's what I do. Most guys don't retire before they've been forced out of the league. Like, we let guys say that they're retired, but for the overwhelming majority of them are guys that didn't have a path back. It's rarer that you get the Marshall Yondas, the guys who would have been welcomed back. It's more common that you get, even an Ed Reed. Ed Reed wanted to keep playing football. Football decided Ed Reed was retired. If somebody would have been willing to let him keep playing, he would have kept playing. So, I don't know. I don't know what the story is on Tom Brady, but what I do know is that Ian Beckles is right. It doesn't look right. There are a lot of problems. I'm just still apprehensive about assuming that means that it's just over, or that Tom Brady can't be Tom Brady again. That this week you couldn't be like, he reminded us who he is. He reminded us that it's not over. I don't think he's like at Ben Roethlisberger, you got to the point where physically you could see he can't do it any longer. Like you could watch Ben Roethlisberger a year ago and say they can gut out figuring out a way to win. They run the ball and they play defense, but they can't win a game where Ben Roethlisberger has to win it for them. We could see that physically, that he couldn't do it. We could see it physically with Drew Brees at the end of his career, that if it required Drew Brees, slinging the ball over the field, they couldn't win that way. I'm still not certain that Tom Brady couldn't win a game that way. Physically, he doesn't look like a guy that isn't capable of it. I agree with Ian Beckles. It's not the best path for them. I don't understand, why you would want that to be the way that you go about trying to win. But that he couldn't, I absolutely think there's a world in which, Thursday night, we get to the end of the night, and the story could be, look at that vintage Tom Brady drive that he put together in the fourth quarter, and he reminded everybody he's still capable of it. I can't be dismissive of that. It's frustrating. It's Tom Brady. All right, we come back in. A couple things we haven't gotten to yet. There was this sound from Trey Mancini on the field after they won the ALCS that I thought was really sweet, and I wanted to share it yesterday, but we just had a busy day, so we'll take a listen to that. Talk a little bit about the World Series as we get you ready for hour number 2 of the program. Still to come today, Joe Serpico is going to join us, PressBox Fantasy Football Analyst. Today's show brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. It's Glenn Clark Radio. Experience the best in Kamado Grilling, a complete outdoor cooking appliance. The Ginsu Kamado Grill allows anyone to sear, grill, bake, and smoke all types of food. Designed for efficiency and function, the Ginsu Kamado Grill upholds the enduring legacy of the iconic Ginsu brand. The Ginsu Kamado Grill is perfect to cook all year round, is great for parties, and ideal for tailgating with your friends. Reserve your Ginsu Kamado Grill today at ginsugrills.com and get $100 off on your pre-order when you use the promo code TAILGATE. That's ginsugrills.com. Reserve yours today.
The latest edition of PressBox is available now. On the cover, New Maryland basketball coach Kevin Willard sits down with Stan Charles and Glenn Clark to discuss the situation he inherited in College Park and how he plans to get the program turned around. Also, inside, we introduce you to men's and women's college basketball players from all of the teams in the area. And Bo Smoko profiles Ravens receiver Devin Duvernay. PressBox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
What's up, everyone? This is Tyus Bowser, and I'm excited to tell you that I'm back for Season 2 of the Tyus Bowser Show in partnership with PressBox and Great H Memorabilia. Join us on Tuesday nights throughout the season as I'll be heading all over town with my special guests, and of course, our co-hosts, Glenn and Rita. Or is it Rita and Glenn? What is it? I look forward to meeting you guys and talking a little bit about football and a lot about life. And if you happen to miss the show, you can now catch a replay Friday nights on 105.7 The Fan. Get all of your details for the Tyus Bowser Show right now at PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser.
The next Tyus Bowser Show is Tuesday, November 1st at the Hamilton Sports Bar and Grill, 5506 Hartford Road. It's brought to you by Maryland Vascular Specialists and the all-new Ginsu Kamado Grill.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn over 4100 North Point Boulevard.
The Baltimore County Police Department is hiring spring. Entry-level officers start at close to $59,000 a year with a $10,000 bonus. Some restrictions apply. Plus a great retirement plan, medical, dental, and vision insurance, advancement to specialized units, tuition reimbursement, 15 sick days earned per calendar year, and even further incentives for military members and veterans. If you have a passion for service and want a career for life, visit joinbaltimorecountypd.com or call 410-887-5542. You must be a United States citizen, possess a valid driver's license, and have a high school diploma or GED equivalent. The Baltimore County Police Department is an equal opportunity employer.
If you can't listen or watch live, you can subscribe to the show via Spotify, Amazon, or Apple Podcasts. Leave a 5-star review while you're there. Or, if lying isn't your thing, we'll take a 3.5-star review too.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue on a Tuesday edition of the program. Today's show, or happy this, just a reminder, if you missed it yesterday, Stan the Fan and Ross Grimsley caught up with the great Mike Boddicker. You can find that right now by going to facebook.com/PressBoxSports. You can also find it at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline or PressBoxOnline.com/video. Stan the Fan Charles, Ross Grimsley, Mike Boddicker talking Orioles, talking postseason baseball. Find that right now. Great show from yesterday. All right, quickly a few things. So I wanted to get to this yesterday, and unfortunately just had a lot going on, but very sweet moment on the field after the Astros won Game 4 of the ALCS on Sunday night, sweeping the Yankees. Trey Mancini, who, hasn't had much of a postseason, but he's going to the World Series, and given everything he's been through, it's a really cool thing. Trey Mancini was on the field fielding some questions. Sports Talk 790 in Houston shared this video, and I thought it was a really neat thing for Orioles fans if you happen to miss it.
You're standing here in this moment. You're going through a lot of losing. What is that like for you?
It's very special. Everybody knows how much of a fondness I have for Baltimore, and they really helped shape me into who I am today. But with that being said, it's been a really seamless transition for me to come to this team, and this group's just been incredible. And like I've been saying, it's just an infectious, want to better yourself every day. And these guys prepare better than anybody I've ever seen. And, I've learned a lot from them, so it's great.
All right, I think that's the part that anybody wanted to hear, and I get it. Unfortunately, audio quality when you're standing in the middle of a stadium and you're not going through a microphone is very difficult. It's not quite the same as when you're in an enclosed space when you're standing in the middle of the field. But as you can see, Trey Mancini wearing his emotions on his sleeve and still going on about how much this place impacted him. I was texting with Trey a few weeks ago, and this in so many ways is his home, right? Like, this in so many ways is the place for him, and it's sad that couldn't continue. I certainly understand the arguments for why maybe it was the right, I don't know if the right thing. I don't know if I can ever come back to that. Hopefully the trade that was made will ultimately pan out to be beneficial for the Orioles in the future. I hope that that's the case. I don't know that I can agree that it was the right thing necessarily. I think I'm going to struggle with that. Trey Mancini, unfortunately, during the postseason has had 15 plate appearances, and he has yet to record a hit. It's the only bummer about all of this, and sort of celebrating Trey is, for those of us that don't like the Astros, or for those of you that don't like the Astros, or that still think of them as cheaters, that it's tough for you to swallow the idea of rooting for the Astros. It would probably be an easier thing to do if Trey Mancini was a significant part of the reason why the Astros were having such success. At the moment, it's kind of the opposite of that. He's been kind of an albatross for them going into the World Series, which sucks. Like, it sucks because I feel good. I'm still happy for him, even if he doesn't get a single plate appearance in the World Series and wins a World Series title. He's going to get a ring, and that will mean something for Trey Mancini. And since I have no emotional tie, it'd be one thing if there was an emotional tie to the other team. It'd be one thing, as we talked about, if it had been Astros Padres and you just love Manny Machado and he's been a star all season long, and you want to feel good for him. Or if it had been Astros-Mets and there was the Bucs Showalter factor on the other side. There's no connection at all to the Phillies. I don't dislike the Phillies in any way. A lot of people have talked about it. I know Jeremy was talking about it yesterday. Rita's talked a lot about the idea that where Baltimore and D.C. have been kind of combative over the years, Baltimore and Philadelphia are more like cousins, right? Like there's no beef there. There's no, like the way that the emotions that we had, those of us that, and I've gotten over it. I'm more nothing towards DC, but growing up, like I really did. I hated it because when we didn't have football, people tried to convince me that I should be a Redskins fan. Like, get the F out of here with all of that. I mean, Griffin, for whatever reason, decided to be a Wizards fan. A handful of you have decided to be Capitals fans, and that's fine. Like, I'm not mad. I'm over being mad about it, but I'll never understand it. I'll never get feeling an association with the city that I have nothing to do with. I've said before, if you live between Baltimore and D.C., like if you're from Anne Arundel County, I can at least make some more sense of that. I know my buddy Brian Powell and I have talked about that a lot over the years because he's like, well, you keep saying there's no cap. Like, there might be more down there because it's a little bit closer, and I can understand a bit more of an association with D.C. if you're from those areas than I could if you're from Baltimore County or Baltimore City or, Griffin Carroll County or sure as hell Hartford or Cecil counties. Like that, again, if you're from Cecil County, I mean, hell, half the people in Cecil County are about as much Philly fans as they are Baltimore fans sometimes. Like, I could never in my life understand how someone from, like, Forest Hill or, Perryville would become a D.C. fan of any sort. Like, that, what in the world would that connection be? I don't have any animosity towards the Phillies. I don't have any animosity towards Philadelphia. I think their fans are capable of being pretty obnoxious. Like, when they're good, they're capable of turning they come off like New York fans sometimes. Like, we're better than you. But the teams are good. I kind of get it. When anybody's team's good, there's a little bit of that. I'm not rooting against them. I don't dislike Bryce Harper for any reason.
Yeah, I like Harper. The Phillies kind of remind me of the Nationals in 2019 this season, at least like throughout the playoffs. And so I'm kind of, just because I generally, root for the underdog, in these kind of cases, I feel more towards the Phillies, but again, like I don't care too much either direction.
I don't get
and I'm
this.
hoping Trey does
Mancini's
something.
on one of these teams.
I know.
Trey Mancini is
the rest
on one
of the
teams.
team I do not care for at all. Like, it's
because of the
well, just
trash can
because
stuff,
they've been good for so long. I
yeah,
want some fresh blood in there.
If there was no Trey Mancini and this is what this was, I think I would probably root for the Phillies. I think 100% that factor, the fact that the Astros have done it, would be relevant to me.
I'm rooting for 7 games.
I mean, I get it. Like, you want a fun series if you're going to watch. I'd certainly get that concept. But, if you're telling me the Phillies in 7 or the Astros in 4, I'm going to take the Astros in 4 every time. I want Trey Mancini to win a World Series because it's the only – now, look, I get it. It's a bit more personal. I know Trey on a personal level. It's not just that he was a guy that I rooted for. I personally, Trey has been very kind to me for a very long time and has been very helpful. One time when we were struggling with what we were going to do for the coat drive one year, he said, hey, man, if you want me to, I'll fly up from Nashville and I'll come do it for you.
Wow.
Like, that's who Trey Mancini is. Like, that's what a human being Trey Mancini is. I remember talking to Trey one year on Thanksgiving because he was doing the tailgate that weekend. He was like, oh, dude, I want to come on with you this week, but the only day I might be able to do it is Thanksgiving. Like, bro, are you really going to take time out of your Thanksgiving? Like, I don't know what we're doing here. As it turns out, I think we figured out a way to do it the day before. I think we made it work so that he wouldn't have to do it on Thanksgiving. At a time when the Orioles, didn't want guys doing interviews they didn't coordinate. Trey Mancini was the guy that was like, look, man, you need me. You got me. Like, that's who he is. So I accept that maybe it's a bit more personal for me, but I don't know how anyone who's been in this city for this long couldn't have the same feelings towards Trey Mancini. Look, that's just the reality of this, is Trey Mancini is a special human being. He's never, as we talked about this summer, he's never going to be, one of the greatest Orioles of all time. He was never an all-star during his time in Baltimore, but he's one of the greatest humans we've ever had come through here. And what it would mean to, if you believe in something spiritual, what it mean to Mo Gabba watching down to see Trey Mancini celebrate a World Series. No offense, there's nothing else that could compare to that. A 7-game thriller doesn't mean anything in comparison to that. So, but I don't hate the Phillies. If the Phillies win the World Series, I'll tip my cap to them. I won't be angry about it. It won't be like the Red Sox winning the World Series or the Astros, or the Yankees winning the World Series. I'll say, good on you. I'll be bummed for Trey Mancini. I'll be very disappointed and for Dusty Baker. There's a Dusty Baker factor that's not as personal or as significant to me, but like Dusty Baker deserves to win a World Series, man. Like Dusty Baker, as much as we want Buck Showalter to have won a World Series, like Dusty Baker throughout baseball deserves to be a World Series winner. So that one matters to me a little bit too as I look at this. Proctor had something funny. He said, I've figured out the steps. Step 1, fire the coordinator. Step 2, don't pay Lamar. Step 3, perfect cloning technology. Step 4, clone Ray, Ed, Terrell, etc., and sign them again. Step 5, win Super Bowl or Super Bowls. Piece of cake. That's the one. That is, he's figured out the steps between.
You can't argue. You can't argue that.
My guy Steven, who just keeps going back and forth with me, and I like him. Again, I like Steven. That's the funny part. I'll never understand it. I'll never be able to get into the psychology of the people that just are convinced that you just fire the offensive coordinator again of a good offense, and now you win the Super Bowl. I'll never be able to understand that psychology, but I appreciate the back and forth. If you're basically saying that you're okay with being mediocre, no. If they were mediocre, I think that we could have a conversation about it. But there have been 3 years where Greg Roman had even a modicum of health as the Ravens offensive coordinator. They were a top 7 scoring offense in all of those years, including this year, right? So 19, 20, 22. Do you know what mediocre means? Like, do you know which one mediocre is? And I get it. Like, we're in the context of everybody in the NFL is mediocre, right? Like, you could say that's mediocre. Right now, we think there are 3 teams in the NFL that are above mediocre. We think that the Bills and the Eagles and the Chiefs are above mediocre, and we think everybody else is mediocre. I was also asked this morning when I said that I think the playmakers are still the bigger problem. Like, what do you think is the defined number of playmakers that a team needs to have in order to win a Super Bowl? And what I looked at was the last 3 Super Bowl champions. And the last 3 Super Bowl champions either had 2 superstar pass catchers, the Chiefs, of course, having Hill and Kelsey, or they had 1 superstar pass catcher and 2 other high-level NFL pass catchers. So the Rams a year ago had a star of stars in Cooper Kupp. They had Robert Woods, and then when he got hurt, they had Odell Beckham, right? Like, they kind of slid in nicely there that when it wasn't Woods, it was Beckham. And Woods played a significant role in getting them to the record that they had in order to give them the chance to be the number 1 seed in the NFC and to host the NFC Championship game. And then Tyler Higbee is a high-level NFL pass catcher. The separation between the top tight ends and Tyler Higbee is not the same. You can't look at the, I had somebody today say, well, Devin Duvernay is on pace to have a season that's similar to Tyler Higbee's. But the separation between the top wide receivers in the NFL and Devin Duvernay is overwhelming, whereas the separation between the top tight ends in the NFL and Tyler Higbee is not nearly as significant. He is a high-level NFL tight end. He's not a superstar by any stretch of the imagination, but Tyler Higbee's been a very consistent high-level NFL tight end when there's about, 3-4 guys that are superstars at that position, and then a next tier of guys that's a high-level player. The year before that, of course, you had a team in Tampa that had, an embarrassment of pass catchers. A true superstar in Mike Evans, a guy that some people want to believe is a true superstar in Chris Godwin, but I'm saying more high-level than true superstar. A guy that, unfortunately, is as much of a clown as he is, was a high-level player in Antonio Brown, and Rob Gronkowski, who was still at that point in his career. Maybe he wasn't, star of stars any longer at that point in his career, but he was still somewhere between superstar and high level, even when he arrived in Tampa at that point. So to me, the recent trend would say that the number is 2 superstars or 1 superstar and 2 other high-level pass catchers. The Ravens have a superstar, obviously, in Mark Andrews. I'm not debating that whatsoever. Mark Andrews is a superstar. We think Rashad Bateman is a high-level receiver. If we're being honest, he hasn't proven that yet. Like, we see the talent. We see what we believe is a high-level receiver. But the truth is, it would be unfair to say just yet he's definitively a high-level NFL wide receiver. He's a good one. He's a guy we like. He's a guy we think highly of, however you want to say it. But we would be speaking out of turn to say he's a proven high-level NFL wide receiver. And then clearly there's not even an argument for a third. So my lack of confidence in the Ravens being able to win a Super Bowl with this offense, far more related to that than to Greg Roman. And again, given the personnel, if you're not going to have those guys, you're better off trying to win a Super Bowl doing the Greg Roman thing, just doing the run, you zig, we zag. Let's try to win a Super Bowl doing something else. Because if you're going to try to win a Super Bowl doing what other teams are doing, I think those other teams are going to prove to be better than you. Now, the Chiefs are, going to try to flirt with that this year. Can the Chiefs prove to be a team that can win a Super Bowl without having, a second superstar or a third high level? They have, a star still in Travis Kelce.
And then Juju, I guess.
Is the
he's looked good the last 2 weeks.
There have been moments in his career where we would say he's a high-level, pass catcher. He's definitely a more proven high-level pass catcher than Rashad Bateman is to this point in his career. We just think that Rashad Bateman's, high-end talent is better than Juju Smith-Schuster's, and I think we have the right to feel that way. Mecole Hardman looked good for a week, but they don't have a third high-level pass catcher right now, not a proven high level. It might be by the end of the season. We look up and we say, Mecole Hardman, turned out to be that guy. He turned out to be the difference in getting them to that point. I don't know, but not right now. They'll try to get there. They'll try to prove that they can be that team that can win a Super Bowl without that. The Bills, in a way, are kind of flirting with that too, right? They have one superstar in Stephon Diggs. They have a Gabe Davis, who I think we all now would put in the high-level NFL pass catcher territory. But, who else? They don't really have a third true high-level player. So there are other teams. Now, the Eagles have 2 superstars, right? Like, they have 2 flat-out superstars in A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. So they go into the category like the Chiefs, where they check the box. They check the box of a team that fits this bill. The other 2, I don't know if they do, and they're going to try to win a Super Bowl this year despite that. It'd be interesting to see how the rest of the season goes with those guys and if they're able to do it. I thought Dawson Knox might be moving into the territory of a high-level NFL player, but I don't think that's proven to be the case. I don't even know that you can make an argument for it. So my gut is that's how you go about winning a Super Bowl, is that you have, again, either 2 superstar pass catchers or 1 superstar and 2 high-level pass catchers. All right, hour number 1 of today's show is in the books. If you've not picked up the new print issue of PressBox yet, I would encourage you to go get it right now. Kevin Willard is on the cover. Stan the Fan Charles and I sat down with the new Maryland basketball coach for a lengthy conversation about taking over in his new role and the difficulty of the job, how he plans to approach turning Maryland basketball around. Some fun anecdotes in there, some, very serious, reflection and honesty about the challenges of the job at the moment. I thought it was a really great sit-down. You can also learn and meet men's and women's college basketball players throughout the state as we get ready for the start of college basketball season, which is we're only a week away from, which is kind of crazy to me.
It's exciting.
Yeah, I love college basketball.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite times of the year, especially – I don't know. I really do love when we get these kind of wonky tournaments. I've said before that as much as we talk about what the best weeks in mine is Labor Day. I love Labor Day, but that Thanksgiving week when you've got football and then you have these random basketball, like you get at midnight Gonzaga and UCLA tipping off in wherever they're playing, Hawaii or something like that. And you're like, This is amazing. It's midnight. We get basketball at 2 in the afternoon and at midnight.
Towson was beating New Mexico at like 10 o'clock at night in Las Vegas last year.
That was a thing, 100%. It is a damn good week, and I know this year there'll be the World Cup too, which it's crazy. I don't even know if we have the bandwidth to be able to handle it. But yeah, I'm excited about the start of college basketball season. Don't forget Monday, we're going to start at 9 a.m. That is now confirmed, as Loyalist Tavares Hardy needs to be here at 9 a.m. on Monday. So Patrick Stevens and I will be hosting our annual college basketball preview show. Looking forward to bringing that to you once again this year, as we will be catching up with coaches from the area teams and just getting to know a little bit more ahead of the start of the season. All right, Joe Serpico is coming up in a few minutes. Might have a visitor stopping by the studio as well. A lot to do as we continue on a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. The Baltimore County Police Department is hiring. Entry-level officers start at close to $59,000 a year with a $10,000 bonus. Some restrictions apply. Plus a great retirement plan, medical, dental, and vision insurance, advancement to specialized units, tuition reimbursement, 15 sick days earned per calendar year, and even further incentives for military members and veterans. If you have a passion for service and want a career for life, visit joinbaltimorecountypd.com or call 410-887-5542. You must be a United States citizen, possess a valid driver's license, and have a high school diploma or GED equivalent. The Baltimore County Police Department is an equal opportunity employer.
Come experience Maryland's #1 sportsbook this NFL season at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel, the ultimate place for any sports enthusiast. Take advantage of our 24/7 kiosks, massive video screens, and watch all the action from the best seat in the house. With more money paid out than anyone around, make every moment more at the new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org. Glory Days Grill's Oktoberfest menu is now running. It's one of their most popular seasonal menus all year. It features the chicken schnitzel, the Oktoberfest brewer's platter, the brewer's sausage sandwich, the Bavarian burger with a pretzel bun, the cheddar ale soup, the slam dunk pretzels, and the apple cobbler. All of these meals pair well with Oktoberfest beers and Angry Orchard on draft. Dine in or order online at glorydaysgrill.com and pick up your favorites to take home. Glory Days Grill, great food, good sports.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Have you been to Guilford Hall Brewery? Located in Baltimore's Station North neighborhood, Guilford Hall Brewery breaks the craft brew mold with their great handcrafted microbrews and amazing Bavarian-style food selections. Join Guilford Hall 7 days a week for Orioles, Ravens, and all of your favorite college games. Make plans now to watch the big games, play trivia, or bring your dog for Yappy Hour. They even have free valet service on Friday and Saturday nights. Go to guilfordhall.com for a complete schedule of events, beer listings, and food and drink specials. We'll see you at Guilford Hall Brewery.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today. Tune in to Simply the Bets every Tuesday and Weekend at Bookies every other Thursday at 11:40 a.m. And if you really have nothing better to do, keep listening to this show too.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue on a Tuesday edition of the program. We continue. Hey, reminder, Tyus Bowser is going to be back next week. 1 week from tonight, Tyus Bowser Show returns Tuesday, November 1st. We will be at the Hamilton Sports Bar and Grill. Looking forward to seeing you there. Tyus and his special guest will be joining us. That will be in between the Thursday night game and then the Monday night game the following week. So we will be hanging out with you at the Hamilton Sports Bar and Grill. We want you to be there. It's all brought to you by Maryland Vascular Specialists and the all-new Ginsu Kamado Grill. Tyus Bowser Show is a partnership, PressBox and Great Eights memorabilia. You can find out more by going to PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser. From Jeff. Jeff says, Glenn, what do you think about the Ravens being involved with Jerry Jeudy? This is a complicated one, man. We brought it up a couple days ago, right? That, like, when we talk about Elijah Moore, it's all hubris. By the way, do we know anything more about, was it Corey Davis that got hurt on Sunday? Do we know anything more about Corey Davis's injury? It feels like if Corey Davis is going to be out, then that, slams the door shut. And it was exactly why it was that I didn't think the Jets would be interested in trading Elijah Moore. They're good. They've got play. It just seems like why would you be looking to move on from a good player?
It's MCL sprain, so he's day to day. So probably, I don't know. I would say probably not this week, but
okay. Well, but any time that he might miss. Oh my! I'm very excited about this.
Okay.
Anyway, let me get to this thought about Jerry Jeudy. There is still. It's not